Right?
and Zero.
Fuck, man.
I mean, that pretty much sums up what
Oh.
a handful of episodes. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a really interesting setup, honestly, for a viewing game. But we'll get to that. Like we mentioned yesterday's podcast. Welcome to the depressing one, because yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is pretty bad. Yeah, I'll give it that. But like, it's also pretty close to a couple different writer shows. I'm like, well, I've seen where this goes before. Not this bad, but well, I mean, like, there's one that's pretty bad, but that's kind of iconic.
So.
Like,
Oh.
this is very similar to a show that I coined my favorite phrase, and it's taken my phrase and just upped it to the nth degree. And just this show is doing nothing but kicking my heart in the dick. Yeah, pretty much. And it won't stop. Like, this writer's fantastic, but I hate him for this. Yeah, right. Like, I was not expecting to go full that other show. I mean, but here we go. We're going there, I guess. It, at least they didn't emotionally whiplash us on Christmas.
God damn. That.
Well, the episode I coined the phrase in. Yeah, the thing is, like, I think last like 2 seasons we've been kind of safe on Christmas, but the next writer show is a writer versus writer show, so I'm like, somebody's fucking over Christmas. So like Saber, it's pretty much guaranteed it's gonna come back, right? Or it's like the episode where everybody stops fighting, but I'm pretty sure somebody is gonna drop dead.
uh, so, uh, as explains to Aruto, uh, what the arc's final conclusion was to pit humans and human gear against each other in a extinction level war.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. Also, like the one thing that I don't like, honestly, is As, because like she's so like, okay, like the explanation of the extinction war and all that, and like this is the arc's final prediction. Fine. The problem is like she literally just says, "Oh right, you're falling into malice or whatever," like to the character's face, who it's happening to, and they're just like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, like, this is like the wrong path, but let me do it anyway, even though you're explicitly saying like, "Yes, all according to plan." I was like,
Yeah,
that's the worst part.
that's how confident she is that it's working. Arto is so filled with hatred for Hirobi that he can't overcome his feelings even though he knows what he's doing is wrong.
His Vegeta is showing. Kind. Well, I was gonna say more like I think he feels like he can control it because like the tunnel scene,
Oh yeah, he
like
probably does feel like he can control it.
right, because like he already kind of fought it back with Metal Cluster for a little bit. Um, so he's probably a little overconfident. I'll give him that. But it's like, yeah, that's like the one thing that annoys me is like how like so upfront. I'm like, I get it. That's because like as is the arcs like android, and so it's like it's got like the arcs like super straightforward like cocky personality. It makes sense, but I'm like, I wish it was like a little more subtle. Like you could pretty much have all that, but like have it in arcs. I mean, not arcs. As's head. Like she doesn't have to say it out loud. Like it could be like a voiceover. That's like the only thing that annoys me. it's an AI. It's an evil AI. So like
which I
also
understand.
also the arc can just make whatever the hell it wants afterwards.
The Ark doesn't want to make anything. The Ark only wants to destroy. It was a robot programmed to destroy, and it's doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like even if the arc was like okay, maybe not so much destruction, like the arc can just 3D
Like,
print whatever the hell it wants.
and like it doesn't care about life. It doesn't want to print anything.
Like
Yeah, I know.
It
Like
has no goals beyond this.
yeah,
like
I
it,
mean probably originally it did, but then the human gear rebelled.
yeah, because originally it was I'm going to control the human gear. Fuck humanity. Human gears are the top. That was the whole purpose of him controlling Metsubo Jinrai.
And then he didn't need the human gear anymore. And he's like, yeah, you're useless to me. I'll destroy you as well. He
It's literally gone to reverse evil.
like if
Well, I was gonna go with like it went straight Thanos of like, all right, humanity or
no,
human gear. Oh, I choose one, and then it's like, no, you're rebelling. Fuck it, everybody dies.
yeah, no. I firmly believe that if the Ark had won and humans and human gear were wiped out, it would just start targeting other life on Earth because that's all it knows.
Yeah, so it's like it's proper evil
Like the
instead of the
destruction.
bullshit of oh, I stopped wiping out humanity because I was entertained.
Like and that's my only issue with this is there's no end. There's no end to it.
Yeah,
At
but
least, at
if
least,
go ahead.
at least the majority of the villains that we've had some sort of end goal for their plan of what they wanted once they were done with their plan.
Right. I mean, my counter argument to that is like one, it's pure AI, so it doesn't need human logic. Like it doesn't need closure, right? It doesn't give a shit. It's like mission complete. There you go. You know, I crossed the finish line. I don't care if it's like not perfect. Um, and two, it's like this is kind of subtly tying back into the old Shocker philosophies. Like Shocker can't stop winning, or quote unquote winning. It's like even if they like became the ruling class, and okay, even if they defeated the writers, and even if they took out all their enemies, and then even if they became the ruling class, the Shocker monsters, because they're fucking Nazis, right, would have like an underclass of monsters. And then the underclass of monsters would become the next generation of writers. So, like, basically, the Shocker thing is like it never stops.
Pretty much
So it's
just
like, it's kind of tying back into the roots of Rider, where it's like, yeah, like the villains think they have an end goal to rule the world, but like if you really carry out their ideology, like they get paranoid halfway through that things aren't like 100% according to their plan because they can't control everything 100% of the time, and then their final conclusion is always like, fuck it, kill them all.
Yeah,
It's easier than
that's
trying to kill
what's
one.
happening to the Ark right now. Like he's like, yeah, I'll just kill all humanity, and then whatever the human gears, and he's like, well, I don't need the human gears anymore, so I can kill them as well. And that's
so.
just his entire plan.
So what you're telling me, he's gone full shocker.
Yeah, it's basically like a big machine. Or like, I guess if you want like a Captain America reference, then like the evil computer from Hydra. But whatever. The point is like, yeah, it's very like this is in like some of the comics and stuff where like offshoot comics where it shows like, oh, what would happen if Shocker wins? It's like this shit. Like there would be new writers, except the writers would be just Shocker monsters because like Shocker just can't stop because they want like total domination, and like that's not possible because free will always exists, which means there's always going to be a resistance, which means their ultimate conclusion is like it's impossible to take away all free will, therefore it's easier to just kill everyone.
Uh, so, Jin approaches Hirobi again, trying to plead to him. Hirobi, however, is unmoved, saying that, like, yeah, Aruto's human malice caused the Ark to revive. That's why humans should be destroyed. To which Jin responds, was it entirely Aruto's fault, though? Who planted that malice within him?
Yeah, he basically says like, do the humans have like a monopoly on malice? Which is
Right.
like, oh man, that is such a genius
Right,
line.
like, hey Hirobi, don't you have malice? So he's Jin is basically trying to say what you were just saying, Zero, of like, hey, guess what's gonna happen if you win?
Sure.
Right.
I
I
think
mean, like at least Hirobi is kind of doing it from that like the ends justify the means thing, where he's kind of like holding on to this. Oh, I'm doing this for justice. But like the problem with that, like the ends justify the means, is like okay, that's a saying, but then there's also a saying of like the road to hell is paved with good deeds, and it's like yeah, it's this, right? Like if you pretend to do shit or not pretend, if you actually try to do shit just for the greater good, quote unquote, it's like what the fuck does that mean, right? Like if you ask the people you're trying to do this thing to save, they would be like half the time like, "What the fuck are you doing? That's crazy. Stop that shit." But you never stop to ask, especially when you get your ball rolling, because you're like, "Oh, I'm high and mighty, and everything I do is right. I'm doing
Right.
it for the greater good, right?"
Ryder is no stranger to the concept of someone doing something for a loved one, and that loved one finds out and goes, what the fuck are you doing? I never asked for this.
I mean, like literally, the whole plot of Wizard is just that.
So is the whole plot of Ryuki.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Ryuki especially.
Yeah, but the thing with Ryuki is like that's the only way to can make Kanzaki Shiro stop, is like, hey, you can't do this. This isn't fixing anything, and they actually win. Where in Wizard, it's like you've gone off the deep end. You're not even gonna try to listen, so we're just gonna have to stop you by force.
Yeah, Kanzaki Show took some reasoning, but White Wizard was just not having it.
Yeah. No, he wasn't.
So, Fu and you are introduced to the new president of Zaya. I guess he's from, like, the text department or something.
Yeah, he's from the developer branch from HQ, which explains why Yua knows him, because she's
Yeah.
an engineer.
Uh, so they explain to him that, like, oh, so Aruto is being possessed by the Ark. Uh, but Guy is just like, there's one thing about this situation that's bothering me, though. And then they go and confront Aruto themselves. And in the fight, Aruto ends up winning, but he spares them, but he destroys all of their drivers. All of them.
Well, he destroys Guy's driver, and then
He.
he just deprograms the chips that allow Valkyrie and
Oh, yeah,
Kazuki
you're
to
right.
take advantage.
You're right. Uh, but so as he goes to walk away, though, the others ask him, like, why didn't you kill us? Because they think it's the Ark in control. And it's not until they analyze the combat data later, that they realize, like, those attack patterns are, like, 99% Aruto. Like, that's not how the Ark fights, that's how Aruto fights. He's in control of himself.
Like it's a fantastic revelation, which we all kind of had the idea of.
Like, we, the audience, already knew this.
Right. But it also solidified being able to go, well, maybe he's fighting it. He's not really wanting to use his power and all this. And it's like, no, 100%, no, no, he's doing this of his own volition.
I guess I was gonna say, I guess it could have been like the situation of when he was henshined, the Ark was in control, but that's not what it seemed like, because the Ark wasn't saying anything to Aruto. It was all A's.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, that episode's so good because like everybody is like on top of their game, right? Like they're so in character. I also like how like everybody just like figures shit out. Like, all right, guy, his thing is analysis. Guess what? He's good at his analysis shit, right? Um, Fua is just like, yeah, I'm gonna save you even if I have to fucking just fight you right on, standard stuff. Yua's kind
Uh,
of just like, hey, let's just try to work this out. Like the new president's pretty freaking great too. It's like they tried one strategy, didn't work. Okay, try second strategy, because they figure out like, oh shit, we can't do this again because it'll just escalate stuff. I'm like, man, the fucking dynamic between all four of them was so good. Like, for as new of a character as the new Zaya president is, he fit in so well into the story.
Like the main thing that here bothers me with this is the fact that we actually kind of have to praise Guy for anything. I'm still very much against that.
I mean, like that's the one
Like
thing he's good at. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, like he
which
did it the
I'm
last
not
time with the arc also.
right, and like I'm not arguing that he's good at it. It's just I hate the fact that he's a good guy.
Well, he's not a good guy. He's useful.
Or yeah, but I mean at least they played that swapping sides things like that bothers me. It will
Yeah.
bother me till the end of the show.
Honestly, like this is kind of one of those situations where it's like shit's escalating so fast that they're like, fuck it, guy. We don't like you, but like, god damn it, no one's got time for this shit.
you need to clean up your mess, so you're gonna help us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, which I can accept that. But yeah, the acting for every member of this cast is phenomenal, especially Hirobi and Chihiro,
I love Fuwa's like, yeah, I'm gonna save you even if I have to kick your ass to do it attitude.
I know. Right?
which is always which that's been has been his attitude. How are we gonna solve this problem? I'm just gonna beat someone's ass. Except this time it's not a robot ass.
Let's see here. Sorry, I watched this a couple of days ago. Okay, so uh, Hirobi sends out another message to all Humagear to tell them like, hey, your precious president Aruto has turned on you. Humanity sucks. Let's wipe them out. So Fu and Yua head to Hidden Intelligence to ask the vice president, like, hey, Izu was destroyed. Is there any way we can bring her back? And the news is so shocking that the vice president and the manager director both think it's some kind of sick joke.
Continues to for
Too long.
longer than yeah, longer than necessary.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, not so much vice president. He kind of clicks initially after the first. No, you must be joking. Ha ha ha. No, 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 no. This is serious. Is there a backup? And then the manager director does it again. He's just kind of along with them, like kind of I guess hoping that it's a joke
Yeah, like
at
they're
that
kind of
point.
in shock, so they're trying to deny it to themselves.
um, but yeah, we get the same thing that we were told from the start. There is no backup of Izu.
Yeah, she's a special model for the president's assistant as part of the Zero-One program.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now
Uh,
that's not to say that they can't make an Izu that
I
looks
mean,
like
Az is
Izu.
running around,
Yeah,
so
they have
Yeah,
the like appearance design,
yeah, right. And like the base manufactured AI, the Secretariat guy AI that would be Izu.
but it wouldn't be Izu.
Right.
yeah, like
It'd be Izu 2.0.
right. Honestly, if she was the only one want to take damage, I'm like, all right, we're gonna do something with ads and swap her out. But like now, I'm like, I don't know. Because like shit's escalating so fast, and then like other stuff happened later on in this episode. I'm like, maybe they're just gonna let it rock, and we'll see what happens. Also, I got I think I muted myself and I was saying something before, which was right. So basically, Fua, Yua, and Guy are basically a Sentai team now. Well, they were. They got their ass kicked. Right, and like the new president Zaya is like the commander who sent them out. So yeah, that was great until they lost. Man, also the arc's fighting style is freaking cool because it's like Arto. He's like, okay, one, like the arc predicts everything, and two, Arto's seen them all fight, so he can just dodge their finishers. That was such a cool moment. Um, but yes, Hirobi wants to fucking take over the world now, sort of. Also, I do like how like every time you see like the first human gear to rebel after like Hirobi sends out its message, it's like some low working grunt human gear. Like last time it was the garbage collector one, this time it's the mail delivery one. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So like the most disgruntled people, or I guess like in society would be, and then they're showing like a human gear equivalent.
Like, when it comes to like Izu coming back, I'm standing by the theory that I said last week. 100% just gonna take over Azu. I'm standing by that because it's either that or she stays dead. That's the only two viable ones that I will accept. Everything else to me would be they, oh my god, Kapi sacrificed herself. Let's all be sad.
Oh, don't worry, I rebuilt her.
She's she's back 10 minutes later because Bugster.
Because the
Yeah, I mean like
Bugsters
it
can
makes
just.
sense in X8, but like man, that was such a fucking cop out.
No one died in X8.
Yeah, yeah, nobody died.
Well,
Even the
I
people
mean
who died.
Graphite died.
No?
Yeah,
Well, I
Graphite
guess
died.
I
No,
did at the end.
yeah. At the end, Graphite, and Cronus are the only ones that die.
Did he? Did he not just go back to jail?
Did he die or did they just
I
kill him?
I.
I said Cronus,
Oh,
not
sorry, sorry. Yes, my bad.
not CEO asshole.
Oh.
Masamune.
Yeah, Masamune went back to jail. Dan went back to jail. He went back to Buckster jail. And Kiria became human again. Oh wait, no, Dan technically died by the end of the series.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's why he's a fucking
The
monster.
whole
He's dead.
well no, I mean like the end of the Genom Laser movie, which is
Oh, okay.
which is the final ending of X8. Laser kills Genom
Ah,
for the final time. But
nice.
then sees a flash of him walking away like after he's human again. That's why I did the quotes. But yeah, main series Graphite is the only one that died and stayed dead.
So, at Daybreak Town, Aruto is mourning the loss of Izu as he remembers things like when he first met her, when she started up his new company for him, uh, how she was always there for him, and how she was legitimately happy to see him unharmed from battle, all the way up to how he was holding her in his arms and she pushed him away before she blew up so he wouldn't be in the explosion. Are you sure she didn't mean more to him than they were friends?
I don't
I'm
know, man.
saying
I would
yes
have to
because
see his underworld, but whatever.
I'm going to say that yes, just friends. Otherwise, you get into like robo romance, and it, the phrase "bite plastics on the board.
God damn it. Okay, he also had a robot dad, so like if it's like one person who doesn't give a shit if you're a robot or not, I'd be like it'd be Arto. So like
Yeah,
possibly
which I would get, but there's society.
dude, he's the fucking president. Rich people do whatever the fuck they want.
If you were raised by wolves, it still doesn't make it acceptable for you to move into society and then bang a wolf.
I
he wasn't raised outside of human society.
Right, but I'm just trying to allude. Is
okay
it just
okay
because he was
Vashi
raised by a
Vashi
robot? Is it doesn't make him
Okay, okay, Vashi.
robot.
What
Okay
what
Vashi.
are the humagears to you? Because you are currently comparing them to a wild animal.
Yeah, the thing is like they've
maybe
reached singularity, which means they're basically pure AI. Like they're basically human beings at this point, except in like a robot. Like it's like saying,
They're
"Oh shit, you can't fall in love with Data because he's
they
a human."
they have a human heart. Yeah, Data wanted to date too.
they literally went through an episode of no, it is wrong to date human gear.
Did they say it was wrong
No, okay. Are
There
you
was
remembering Futurama? Because there's a Futurama episode about
which I did
about Amy dating Bender?
yes, that one.
but like
That was just that was a homophobia parody, and they just used robots.
Oh,
but
okay. Was that the
like
case?
It
all of that came about with the I want to marry I want to marry a human gear, and they went no, that's not right. And by the end of the
Oh,
episode, it
oh,
was
okay. You're talking about the episode. Yeah,
I
that's because like that person clearly just
so,
falls for
okay.
garbage.
So yeah, here's the thing. It wasn't that he was a humagear. It was that it was a bad match.
I could swear they were talking like there's several things that human gears couldn't do. I could swore let's get married was one of them.
Well, I don't know if humagear
That's
can
not
leg.
one of the laws.
Yeah, I don't remember they can legally get married, but like that doesn't stop people
That
from
doesn't
feeling
stop it.
emotions.
It's just a freaking. It's literally a fucking piece of paper, right? Like, who cares?
And like our again, Arto is the president of the company that makes these. Like he doesn't like the law, he can petition to change it. He has the money.
I still say it's just you know
Look, let's just
it's
leave it at like what write whatever ending in your fanfiction you would want. Alright? Like if you think they're gonna be together, write it. If you
All
don't,
right.
then I'm not gonna fucking kid around with you. Also, hello VC.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. So I hit a button. I don't know what button I hit. Um,
Are you still streaming?
we're still streaming. I just my desktop is a little wonky right now. So as approaches Arto, being like, "So you ready to be the Arc now?" And Arto's like, "Okay, look, you're not my assistant. I don't acknowledge you. I'm leaving." And then Az is like, "Oh, but don't you want to know Hirobi is?" And then Arto stops and turns around.
because that revenge boner. That's my only issue with all this. Like all of his common sense has gone completely out the window.
Yeah, losing a loved one will do that to you.
Well, I wish like a little bit of the arc was still like infecting him, so it's like it would just be like multiplying
Right,
that,
like
so like he couldn't think straight at all. Because like he feels like he's infected because the effects are all there, but he's not. So it's like it's just weird.
right, like and she literally flat told him what will happen if he kills Hirobi. 100%. But his revenge boner is so strong that he doesn't care.
I like Vashi's explanation of like he thinks he's in more control than he is. Or Zero's explanation.
Which it would work better. Like, and to me, until they definitively point that out, I have a problem with the way this plays out.
Yeah,
I
like
get
honestly,
how
if Az was just saying all this stuff in her head and she'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is Hirobe's location, and then like Arta does whatever he's gonna do anyway. Like
Right.
at least like he doesn't have a 100% guarantee that he's following the evil person's or evil AI's plan. You know?
Like the only way this works for me is if it turns out that Aruto's just playing along to circumvent the plan.
That's gonna be
The,
tough.
the, that would be a crazy gambit considering everything that happens.
I understand that,
Like
but
he destroys the Thouser driver. He takes away Yu and Fu's ability to henshin. Like shit goes down.
which I'm not arguing that in any way. But it's just outside of trying to do this to circumvent Bowser's plan, him going and listening to the plan of let's start basically a extinction level war that starts with you killing Hirobi. Him going along with it just seems stupid. Even if he did kill Izu, I'm sorry, somebody kills my best friend or you know my future wife or whatever, and the two choices are ignore it and move on, and mourn on your own, or start a war that will destroy the entire planet. I'm not gonna start the war. There's a point where you got to think about more than just yourself, which Naruto has been shown throughout this entire series to do. And that's my problem.
All right, yeah, that's true. Like, it's a bit crazy. I feel like like the arc stuff honestly is kind of the weakest. Well, it's not weak. It's just badly written. Like it needed another draft. Um, any scene with like Az, pretty much. But like everything else is solid. Anyway, Pixie, what did you think of this episode?
Mm, it was a good episode as far as shock factor. I didn't foresee some of this stuff happening, but as far as Aruto being the arc, we did see the kind of same thing in X8, just not to this level of extreme. Because we did have Imu with the Bugster virus in him the whole time and no clue he had it until towards the end. I feel like this is kind of that, only with the arc, because as we've seen Aruto walking, he's leaving the arc's malice in his footsteps. We have the weird footstep thing. I'm thinking it's going to end up more like, I don't like this where it's going with this, because this is basically the whole Yua storyline again, only this time with Aruto. I feel it's just kind of out the character. It doesn't really go in place with this, even with Izu being destroyed and being his everything. They didn't really build it up to this extent that he would lose his fucking mind. I do agree with he's not realizing that he's as infected as he is, that he still thinks he has all this control and he don't, as we have seen with him attacking everybody regardless. But I don't know. I can't really tell which way this is going. I think it's going to end up with two arcs going at each other, and we'll see what happens from that fallout. Because we still have the new CEO Isaiah in place, who seems to have a creepy backdoor plan. I don't like that at all. I get CEO
I think that's just a prerequisite for sitting in that chair.
Just
It does
having
indicate a
evil
little bit.
evil plan. I mean, they even call him out. It's like, why are you proud of the arc, you dipshit? It's blowing up the world. Whatever. Um,
and yeah, this writer's just all over the place. Like, there's no solid character storyline that we've got here, because we had Yua come off strong and then she became a mouse. And then we had Fua looking like he was going to be the front runner of this, and then he wasn't. Now he's nothing at all, other than somebody who thinks Haruto's funny.
No,
Bowser,
he's still a strong character. He just doesn't have any story focus.
now with where we're
kind of that Ren situation. It's like this is Rider. It's just one of those problems where it's like you can't replace the main guy. Doesn't matter how
Right.
hard you want it to happen.
And I
Still,
don't really want Fua to take Aruto's place, but you know
no,
how
I
in
know,
a
but
lot
like
of
storyline
storylines you
wise,
have the
it's
right hand person.
yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, it's the last episode. I feel like they're gonna figure out a way to get their stuff working because, like, one, they're Zaya riders, which means um, their tech is not built like Zero One's tech, which means they can get their tech working again, especially because they had so many grunts. So like they know how to well, not produce, but like mass replicate this process. So like I feel like they're gonna get their
We have
functioning
we have
abilities
two
back.
episodes
Like
left.
that's why like guys driver had to be destroyed because there's no way they can make that in time, right? Whereas for Fu and Yua they just have to reprogram the chips.
We have two episodes left.
Oh, okay, nice. Um, as for the two arcs going at it, I'm like, yeah, this is so going the route of Blade. Like, I didn't see that coming, but like the shit that happened this episode, I'm like, oh my god, we're getting into like a two Joker situation now. Um, that's insane. But yeah, you're right. Like, I feel like XA did a better job with its character arcs, whereas this show tends to like, okay, XA had one problem, which was the hero arc, where he turns evil for an arc and does nothing. But Zero One's had like a couple of those. So yeah, I feel like that's one of the problems with the show is like the character arcs are uneven.
Like to me, like what you're saying is like the issue is like with X8, most of the character arcs were solid, strong, and lasted just as long as they need to. Again, except for the hero villain arc and the I'm just gonna do nothing but cheat. Um, Whereas with Zero-One, it's been some have been too long, some have been too short, some didn't happen at all, but still got the development because episodes were cut. It's like it's in terms of the character developing arcs, it's been all over the place.
yeah, like
The story is solid. It's just the characters don't always necessarily feel like they're doing what they should do based off what we've seen of them.
that's true. I feel like what happened is like this is one of those shows where the story is so much longer than the runtime. Like this show could literally be 20 more episodes longer.
Like
Like it's
Fies.
already like
Yeah.
going to be like 45 or something, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
Or
45 episodes.
potentially whole seasons. The show could easily have been split into multiple seasons. For me, the problem with the characters are we start off. It feels to me like there's two different ideas, and like they've switched writers of this halfway through, because they start off with one set idea of character development, and the characters are this way, and then as we're going along, it's just like all of a sudden, oh, stop that, drop dead. Now the character's this. I don't know if maybe they had writer issues or if they lost creativity or what, but it feels like the characters are just really chopped up.
I haven't heard anything about any writing issues. Like, as far as I know, this was the plan.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely changed Naruto quicker than they probably originally intended because like I guess Japan wasn't super on board with early Naruto. But like that got better. But I think the problem was we put too many goddamn characters in the show. Like the vice president's group shouldn't exist. I mean, like they're kind of important for early stuff,
But
but
they
like
shouldn't be
after
as prominent throughout.
yeah, right. Like after that, they have no purpose, and then the freaking challenge arc against Guy. Like that started
God,
off
I.
strong, but the problem is like Guy should have had character development going on there.
Yeah, that's when we should have learned about his tragic backstory and daddy issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Like,
tragic, that tragic, such a tragic backstory. It made him evil for life, where he had to pack away his
Where,
robot
yeah,
suit.
he had to give up his toy, and thus he declared war on humanity.
First
yeah,
world problems.
like
He
And like I feel the same with Arto's story too. We don't know enough about his family. Where's his mom? Why is his dad a robot? What
uh
happened with his dad?
he didn't have his parents, which is why he had a robot for a dad.
Yeah, but what happened to him? Your parents just don't up and disappear. All we got is, oh, he
No, they
died.
don't. Yeah.
Ryder is very vague when it comes to parental death.
Yeah.
So the
It,
specifics of what happened to them, they don't usually talk about that. We got it once, and
oh jeez. Well,
Like
yeah. If we're
like
gonna
it,
go back to Blade, yeah, we got it. Well, that's
like
not true. Like,
we also got
Blade
Wizard a little
died,
bit.
but Blade definitely. It's like, oh, what happened? Oh, they burned to death in a
They
fire.
burned in a fire, and all I could do was watch from a distance.
Yeah.
The point trying to make is just that we got way too much backstory on Fua. We know way too much about Fua, and he's not the main character.
But
See,
honestly, I feel
that's
like Fua got enough. Everybody else
so.
didn't.
Here's the thing:
Right.
Fua is the secondary rider, and in most cases, for rider series, the secondary rider is almost just as important as the main rider. So Fua getting all this character development, I would have been upset if he didn't get it.
like and I think my fate like the only part that I on this with Fua that I side with Pixie on is he got too much in the aspect of he got two different backstories and neither one of them really changed who he was.
Well, see, that's why I
Toku
like
is way
him.
better though.
Like, so yes, he got his backstory, and then we find out that that was a lie, and his real backstory was boring. But that didn't change the fact that he legitimately believed he had that traumatic experience. He had all the mental effects as though he went through it and he overcame it because that's the kind of person he is.
It's like but like I feel just in the aspect like the closest thing they did to giving his original back or his true backstory precedence of him of them even doing the oh you're this is a fake backstory was the precedence of he chilled the fuck out a little bit like when it came to like interacting with Arto and everybody else and Humor Gears was he just chilled the fuck out just a bit.
He got a lot of much needed closure. Like
Well, I
Fua,
feel
Fua at the start of the series was basically angry and didn't know why he was angry, and then he got that answer and he realized he didn't need to be angry anymore.
Right, and then he got the oh yeah that was a lie and he goes okay now I'm gonna be angry about this.
well, to be fair, the the thing of like, hey, yeah, we brainwashed you would piss anybody off, especially in a
That's why I
writer
said
show.
that it was he found a new reason to be pissed off
Yeah, it's true. But I
compared to
mean, like, he's a
doing Dark
secondary
Age.
writer. Like, it's not gonna be like, all right, I found out I don't have to fight anymore. It's like, here's the belt. Like, okay, like, unless you're like fucking O's, like that doesn't happen, right? And like the only reason, okay, they even went back on the fucking thing in O's too, right? In the movie, so like,
So
screw
this is
that.
a writer thing.
Yeah, it's the thing is like Fua's not gonna like a secondary cannot give up being a writer like unless they die, right? It's just kind of the thing. It's like a first like a main writer can't will never give up their belts pretty much until the end possibly, but even then it's pretty rare. And
And
a
even then, it's not
secondary,
permanent.
yeah, and the thing is like if the main
Never
writer gives up, yeah, exactly, it's not permanent. And if the main writer gives up his belt, the secondary will not, because you always need somebody protecting people from that threat if they ever show up again. So the thing is
or
like
Sheer
yeah,
Zero.
right. Like the thing is, it would have worked had it been like if Fua gave his belt up to Yua, and then if we kind of had the reason of like okay, Yua's just doing random background shit because like her belt got damaged or something. At least we would have had a reason,
Or
right?
if the secondary decides he wants to go open up a hospital in Africa.
Yeah, it's true.
and then is brought back due to popular demand.
But yeah, fucking O's, man. So many random things,
You showed me that, and I was like, what the heck?
Oh yeah, Dante.
Dante is interesting, but like Dante is one of those weird things where it's like he doesn't need to exist, but like he does, and he's super popular, so they keep bringing him back. Like Oz's story doesn't need Dante in it at all, but he's
Except
there.
for it gave motivation to
The true secondary, the true secondary writer.
true birth, the true birth. Like it gave learning and proper
Yeah, I know, but
motivation to him.
I feel like the only reason Goto didn't have that is because they were like stalling the story to put, to put Date in him. But I'm like, you could write O's without Date, right? So it's like, it's one of those
Well,
annoying things. But it's like
it
he's
was
such a fun
It
character, I kind of have to let it slide.
it was supposed to be like the character development for him of like he doesn't start out the secondary writer, he has to earn that position.
by being the errand boy and cake tester.
Yeah, that was so annoying. Um, but yeah, the problem with the show is like, okay, Fua maybe got a little bit extra, but I feel like he got a decent amount. Arto, if we throw in the movies and stuff, he got enough, but in the show, questionable. Like he's gotten enough because like he's the main character.
Right.
But then you go down the list, like Yua, she got enough screen time, but not enough good characterization. Guy, same problem. Enough screen time, not good characterization.
Right. I'll admit
Matsubo Jinrai, not enough. I mean, they're well
No.
enough done characters.
that Fuwa should have gotten less character development.
I would have
Like
liked to see more on Metsuru Jinrai.
Yeah, so would everyone.
yeah, especially Ikazuchi and
Naki,
Naki,
yeah. Well,
because
I mean, at least Naki got a special.
right,
I guess
like the
Ikazuchi had like a background episode where it's like, oh right, this is him and his space bro.
Like, I
right.
wanted to see more about Jin and Hirobi.
Oh, that would have been cool too. Like the
I
thing is, like it feels like all this shit's gonna be in V cinemas, and like unlike X8, which really didn't need all that crap. Like I feel like this show definitely needs V
Oh,
cinemas.
like this is the show that needs the 4 or 5 movies attached to it to get the whole story.
Oh yeah, and not like the
I'm
freaking Drive way where it's like, oh no, this should have been in the show, but we stuck it out. No, it's like there's too much going on in this show, sort of for its own runtime. Like honestly, I feel the damn contest should have been taken out because the amount of time that shit took up, we could have used it for
Yeah,
better
that took
things.
up like no less than 10 episodes. 12 even. Because they took that break in the middle. That didn't accomplish
Right,
anything.
and literally all the specials were to go. This guy over here is an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much.
That,
I
that
mean, like,
that's all that arc was ended up being is he's a piece of shit. Hate him.
right. I think this is a problem of how this writer writes because like it's a very similar setup to X8 where it's like, oh, here's the new boss. They're an asshole. They're done. Here's the next boss. They're an asshole. They're done. The problem with this is we've got like Matsuo Jinrai who've been there all this time. Then you have Guy in the arc, and they're still around.
And
So
yeah,
it's
and
like,
then right, that's the issue. Is everybody's still around. Like we haven't reached finality on anything with any character. We thought we did, but then people bring characters back.
right. Like
Like
this show solved one problem that the recent shows have been having is like the final villain eats up too much time and is kind of boring and the plan doesn't make sense. Like everything the arc for the most part does kind of makes sense. So I will give it that. Like it's fixed the final arc problem. The problem it encountered is everybody's still around in there and we're like, shit, we need more episodes for these people to
No.
the
and
problem.
then
Everyone is not still around. Assassin Chan.
well,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Izzy.
Well,
Izzy
to be fair, the one still is.
yeah,
We don't know where
arc's not even bad. It's just like we want more, and that's like okay. Normally I'll be like, yeah, that's a good problem to have, but I'm like, it, okay,
Not
it's
two
only a
episodes.
problem.
And
It's
this one is a bad problem.
yeah, it's basically because we have a previous work to compare this against, where it's like, okay, X8 did this better. Their final arc sucked ass,
Eh,
whereas this
I
show,
wouldn't say it was exactly better.
okay, fair enough. I mean, well, I mean, it didn't have this problem. Let's go with that.
The ending was a mess, but for the most
Yes,
part, it was better.
that's true. But like, I feel like Zero-One was doing a really good job on its ending, Guy excluded. Um, but like, yeah, so it's fixed the final arc problem of X8, but like, it didn't do what X8 did, which is cordoned off arcs and good character development throughout. It still did the thing where like the arcs blend into each other really well, which is nice, but it's like it's kind
To
of
me,
one of those problems where it's like, oh, we're at the end, and we can see like, oh shit, you should have done this instead, you know?
like usually when we get to the end of the show, we want more because we like the show, we like the characters. Which that's not entirely not the case here because we all like the characters, the show, the whole nine yards, and we do want to see more of it. There's still unanswered questions, dumbass unanswered questions, questions that should have been answered well before the final two episodes. I, i.e., how is he 45 years old and he looks like he's 20?
Oh yeah, we never found out that he was a robot.
Yes,
Yeah.
we still don't have that explanation. We don't
Well,
have we don't have necessarily have why he was so pissed off at um he did to create the arc in the first place.
Okay,
right,
so
that's the major one.
Yua gets a lot for like how she was didn't do anything for an entire arc, but I have to say Thouser is the most poorly written character on the show.
Agreed. I mean, like he's acted well enough when he's an asshole. When he's trying to be a good guy, it's like you're going way too over the top, being too nice.
Yeah, he
He's like a
they
wet blanket.
overcorrected. They overcorrected his character. His actor does a great job. I'm not going to argue that. His
Oh
actor
yeah,
is
all
fantastic.
the actors are great.
I
Like
mean,
did
honestly, I'd love to see this actor in something else.
Like I think this is one of the few writer shows where I can say like there isn't a single bad actor.
like and even for like the side
Yeah.
dumbass, even for like the side dumbass characters, i.e., the vice president and the managing directors, two dumbass characters, perfectly acted.
Yeah,
And
well,
all the
especially
actors who portrayed the human gears. I haven't had any issues with any of those either.
exactly. Also, like you see them in the movie, and they're a lot more serious. So it's like, yeah, they can act. It's just their material is more comedic.
Right.
Mm,
Like the cast is great. It's like, but it's to the point of we've got two episodes left, and we have many threads unanswered. That let's be real, the odds of them answering in the next two episodes are slim to none, unless literally
They
unless
like montage, like, oh,
guy
here's all your questions answered.
unless like
or we
guy
get an X8 movie.
or like
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We need the movies to explain.
arc punches guy out of his transformation, and then he's broken up, and oh no, he's a cyborg too.
Oh, God. Oh, we're getting the fucking chase sequence.
Right, like because it's something dumb that they put in as a plot device, and I say
Right.
it's a plot device because it was mentioned and touched on several times throughout his arc, and then completely ignored. The whole him turning the arc evil, unexplained, considering the fact that we got the oh no, I love Hide. Then why the fuck did you do this?
Yeah,
Well,
right. Like
before
it's the
it came
problem is
out that you weren't going to be the
Danny,
president.
the character was incredibly petty, but like the the problem he committed is so much worse than Dan. That's
Yeah,
like, all right, you could kind of, sort of, maybe forgive Dan a little bit, but like, guy, it's like, no, man, you fucked up super hard.
you we the reason why is he was a fucking kid.
Right.
So
And
yeah, him being the petty asshole makes sense and fit. And yeah, okay, that was dumb of you. Oops. Oh shit, that didn't help anything. You did still turn out evil. Whereas Guy, he was an adult, did this, and we still have no justification of why he did it, other
right,
than just
exactly.
Like,
He has
and
no
like,
end goal with
Are you
doing
talking about
this.
Bowser? I'm lost.
yes,
yes,
Okay.
like Dan.
Scrambled brains.
So like Dan, by the end of the series, had gone through so much character development that I actually felt like, I understood him a little bit. He was still an asshole, and I wasn't sure that he entirely regretted his actions, but I felt like I could trust him more than I can trust Thouser.
yeah.
Who's Dan?
Kuroto Dan.
CEO Crazy Pants.
From
Oh,
X8.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
no, he
amazing
has
how
no regrets at
effective.
all, even after everything.
It's amazing how
Scrambled
effective.
brains.
It's amazing how effective saying CEO Crazy Pants is to explain who that one is.
Well, he's so iconic, right? Yeah, but
Welcome to the world
basically,
of my scrambled brains.
this show's got like the Fies problem of like it needs a season two.
Yeah.
So, the final part of the episode, Aruto and Hirobi get into their big fight, and at the fight's finisher, Jin jumps in the way and takes the hit for Hirobi because he wanted to try and stop the fighting to prevent the spread of malice. But in doing so, Aruto ended up accidentally destroying him, and his death only incited anger and malice within Hirobi, as Azu presents him with a nether arc key.
Because now they both have hate boner or revenge boners.
There are now two arcs.
Say I have a hate boner for Azu.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, my
I
god,
think it's
Go ahead.
her
different.
character
I,
is so
I
good,
think
but
it's
I hate her.
I think it's a little different if us three say we have hate boners for Azu. I think it's a little different than if she's just said it.
What am I to say? There is nothing. There's no female word for that.
Well,
I mean, there you go. Come up with something.
But yeah, in this particular instance, it's like Azu is nothing but an asshole.
My god.
Like
She's like the
through all of
villain
this,
you'd love to hate.
and like the let's get it to the point where they're playing against each other. I'm sorry, I looked at what you said, Zero.
what did Zero send? Hold on a second. Alright, Zero is. Oh god. I'm not saying that.
yeah,
Anyways, so.
Anyways, like I, the entire plan that Ark has is basically come down to fuck it, I'm gonna be inside one of you. Figure it out. And that didn't sound right either. Well, I mean, that's basically the Ark's plan at the point at this moment. One of you is gonna be my vessel. Fine.
Really, yeah, really destroy each other for my amusement.
Because whichever one survives, I'm taking over.
And destroying everything.
For shits and giggles.
So. I do want to backtrack a bit to the earlier discussion about humans and Humagears being together. Because after thinking about it for a minute, I did realize something about Vashi's argument. You said it wouldn't be socially acceptable, right?
Yes. Okay. I'm not saying that doing things that are not socially acceptable is bad. I mean, look at our society. Look at
Yeah.
America when it comes to our relationships.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, neither was homophobia.
I'm not.
Not homophobia, homosexuality, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna,
Homophobia is the
Oh,
problem.
no.
Homosexuality was the solution.
well, not the solution, but the thing. But I mean, if you're gonna reach back all the way, this kind of goes literally to like, oh, you have the same dumbass arguments. Like transphobes use the same arguments that homophobes use, which is the same argument that fucking racist assholes use before they legalized, like interracial
Like,
marriage because that
the,
used to be illegal. Like it's literally the same fucking argument from the 50s,
so,
people.
which again, that's not necessarily where I'm trying to go with the argument. Where I was trying to go with the argument initially before I got sidetracked by whatever other argument I ended up making, was not the fact that it's not socially acceptable. It's not been done yet, for as far as we know of. We've had at least one person who wanted to date a human gear for the wrong reason.
And yes, it was seen as uh weird because like, hey, this is different. I don't didn't think this is something that could happen, but opinions can change.
Right, and I fully understand that and accept that, and that's valid. My viewpoint on it is Aruto hasn't been shown. Yes, he's been shown to not really care about the difference between human and human gear, but I don't think they've shown anything in the show well enough to warrant the I'm in love with Izu.
I didn't think so either
Beyond
until
beyond
this.
this,
Yeah.
beyond this,
Mhm.
like outside of the scope of this, they've shown nothing. They've shown that yes, both characters care deeply for each other, and yes, there may be that's where it was leading.
But it's like the friendship thing.
Yeah, no, it's very much the friendship
Like
thing,
work
but
husband thing.
But it
You
hadn't.
know how
It,
people say they have a work husband, work wife.
I hate those people.
Sorry.
but
Not
yeah,
anyone.
uh,
The but going from with the way they've progressed it for the show, it's obviously been leading to that aspect because as her Izu reaches singularity, it has been shown more compassionate and more, you know, I want to be, I always want to be by your side. Things that are being said are still very platonic, yet can still be very romantic. So it was, at least for Izu, it was heading that direction. Whether or not it was to
right, like it was very much like the whole thing is very much a friendship thing. It just feels like
this should have been the relationship. With
the
the undertones of the relationship should have been a bit
the
more
this
prominent.
should have been like what happened in Kiva.
Yeah,
I,
which Pixie
and
has
you
to
know,
Yeah,
defend.
you don't worry about what happened in Kiva.
Yeah, don't worry about what Priest did.
uh,
Do not worry about what
what?
Priest did.
Not him. Okay. Yeah. Not interested. Um. But I just want to say we get that feel with Izu, but it feels like they rushed her death. We didn't get enough of it with Izu. We got like little sprinklings of romantic feelings developing or starting to develop with Izu, and they just killed her off. But with Aruto, you get nothing but friendship vibes until she's dead, and then all of a sudden his crazy lover got killed.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Maybe they're kind of implying, like, you don't know what you have until it's gone type of situation. Or it could just be
Oh
like,
God, I hope not.
I mean, it's possible, like, it
I
happens
hate
in
those
real life.
stories.
Yeah, those suck. But it's like, okay, from one side, you have the thing of writer, like, writer tends to, one, either write, like, really bad romance but they fucking always want love interests. It's annoying. Or you can take it the other way, and it's like Arto's just aromantic, you know. So like a platonic close relationship is the same thing as a romantic one to him. Like I don't know, man. I'm not fucking gonna like start labeling characters based on their like
Yeah, let's not go down
sexuality.
that rabbit hole.
Yeah, right. So like it's possible, but it's like mm,
I just think there wasn't enough development behind it with the Izu Aruto possible love connection. It was like an afterthought.
So, thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Cure Major, and next Wednesday for part one of the two-part finale of Kamen Rider Zero-One. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And and for this episode, I didn't fucking see Jin dying, but I guess that happened. Shit. Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Somebody didn't watch last week's preview.
I sure fucking. And you guys said I'm like, well, there's a chance it might not happen. He
I
might
did
be
watch
just
it. Still
dead.
need to see this. I don't know. It's been a while.
That's why I'm saying it's your turn now.
All right.
Say bye to the audience.
Bye, everybody. And I freaking hate Azu. She is such a evil little bitch.
Thank you all for joining. We'll see you back on Tuesday for Cure Major, which is happy time, and then we'll be back in our depression binge for next week's 01.